Welcome back to the Four Bells, where we are in week 2 of our legs cycle. So day 1 of this week, the first day of this week's training, we are going to be focused primarily on hinging mechanics in our strength work, which means looking at the posterior chain. Hamstrings, glutes, low back. We're going to be doing some variations on 2 legs, variations on 1 leg, but to get us ready for those things today, we're going to do 3 things 3 times. We're going to start off with a very simple toe touch with reach. Can I stretch my hamstrings? Can I touch my toes? From there, we're going to look at the curtsy to Cossack, working through the frontal plane, trying to open up the hips and play around with the groin as well. And then last but not least, some single leg glute bridging for some glute activation. We're going to do these 3 things 3 times. Let's take a look at those guys. So we start the warm-up with a very simple toe touch with reach. It's as simple as bending over, touching your toes, and reaching up to the ceiling. All we're trying to remember is, can I keep my legs locked out during this time? The hamstrings are sneaky beasts. They want to bend your knee and tell you that all is well. We're going to try and keep those legs as locked out as possible, which means if you can't touch your toes, that's okay. From there, we're going to get into a curtsy squat to Cossack, which is a little combination move of bringing one leg behind me and then coming out into that Cossack squat. So leg comes across and behind, touch the back knee down, and then we come across in the Cossack squat. We come over, leg comes across and behind, and we're going to do 5 in one direction and then 5 in the other. Beautiful. Look at Ben, looking so majestic. Depending on how tight the hips are and how tight the groin is, you may be able to go all the way down, or you might be able to move for a partial range of motion, so work what works best for you. From there, we get onto a mat or the floor. We are going to do some glute bridging, which means roughly about 90-degree bend in the knee. We're going to send one leg up to the ceiling, and from there we push the other foot into the floor and squeeze the cheek of the leg that is planted into the floor. So we're going to do 5 glute bridges per side. So that's it. Toe touches for 5, curtsy to Cossack 5 per side, glute bridge 5 per side. We're doing that for 3 total rounds today. Today's strength work is all about that posterior chain, the back side of the body. We have got 4 sets to do today. Each set is 4 minutes and 30 seconds long, split into 3 90-second windows of time. So in our first 90 seconds today, we're going to be looking at the kind of evil, more balancy cousin of the Romanian deadlift, the single leg deadlift. So we're going to be doing 8 reps per leg, ideally starting with our weaker side first. If we can, body weight is very manageable for you, we should be adding some external load to it. That could be a barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, cat, whatever you happen to have. From there, once our single leg deadlifts are on, we move on into a good morning. Sometimes difficult to do at home, but again, if you are lucky enough to have a barbell, of course use a barbell, that's the primary tool for a good morning. But you can also do a lot with the kettlebell on the upper back, with a dumbbell on the upper back, and even if you've got some bands, you can do some good mornings with bands too, and we'll go over how to do those. And we'll be doing 15 reps of a good morning. Last but not least, you need a step, or maybe a couple of books, or maybe a rolled up towel to perform some calf raises. We're going to be working on one of kind of the most forgotten areas of strength development for the legs, kind of things below the knee. The quads and the hamstrings get a lot of focus. We're going to be looking at the calf raise today, which we'll be performing for 20 reps. Let's take a look at those 3 movements. With the single leg deadlift, we are trying to work on the same hinging mechanics as a Romanian deadlift. So that means the hip is reaching back to the wall behind you. We're not trying to send the hip down, the hip just comes back, and then we drive that hip forward, squeezing the glute. If you notice from taking a look at Ben, he has a lovely neutral spine. You'll notice how the back is nice and flat. He's not reaching for the floor. He's not rotating around. Oh yeah, that's not very nice at all. So from there, all we're going to do is 8 reps on one leg, and 8 reps on the other. Moving on to the good morning, we've got a few options of how to do good mornings. You can do them with a barbell if you are very lucky, or you can do them with a dumbbell or a band too. So again, excuse me, very similar hinging mechanics to the single leg deadlift, the cousin of a Romanian deadlift. The only difference now is that weight is on the upper back, which means the possibility for rounding the spine is that much greater. So we have to really work the upper back more to stay in a good position. So if barbell is available to you, you can use a barbell. If not, you could grab maybe a dumbbell. Ben's going to show us very quickly how that's going to work. Just grab it, slang that guy on the upper back, forcing a nice upright torso position. We push those hips back, load the hamstring, load the glutes, and then drive the hips forwards. Fantastic. From there, we are going to come into some calf raises. Ideally, a step of some kind would be ideal. So that means if you've got the stairs at your house, that would be great. If not, maybe a stack of books. Even a rolled up towel can be a good solution. All we've got to make sure is that when we are doing our calf raises, we get a nice stretch with the bottom, a nice peak contraction at the top, and we are going to do 20 reps. If body weight is easy, add a dumbbell, or add a weighted vest, or a friendly dog, whichever you like. The conditioning today, a sweet and simple couplet, only an 8-minute AMRAP. So few minutes, so much joy to be had. We have our couplet of kettlebell swings with cross-body V-ups today. So a slight variation on the V-up. With our kettlebell swings today, we're going to be doing 15 reps. And the idea is if we can, we should be using a heavy kettlebell. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't have a heavy kettlebell, what do you have available to you? You can do swings with dumbbells. So maybe use one dumbbell, you could use 2 dumbbells. Either way, we'll go over some options for you. From there, with the V-up, a great way of looking at lower body, or lower abdominal strength really, as well as hip strength. We're gonna add a slight rotational component into it as we do our cross-body V-ups. So let's take a look at this couplet and how it pertains to the 8-minute AMRAP. Do you like hinging? Good, because there's even more hinging is coming your way today. With the kettlebell swing, we're looking at that dynamic hip displacement, which is a fancy way of saying send your hips back, load the hamstring, load the glute, and we have a snappy hip drive forward. So as you'll notice, nice neutral spine, Ben keeps the chest up even as the torso comes down. So if you don't have a kettlebell, you could do this with a dumbbell. You could do it single arm, and then just maybe switch hands halfway through. And again, the mechanics are the same. Oh, Ben's alternating at the top. So fancy. Executive techniques from Coach Ben. And we're just following those same hinging mechanics. Once we've done 15 swings, even at the end of the kettlebell. My goodness, Ben is blowing my mind right now. Well done, Coach Ben. Take a seat, Ben. Take a seat, all that effort. We are going to do a cross-body V-up, which means keeping the legs as straight as possible. We're going to reach up, touching opposite hand to opposite toe. If you find that your hammies are tight and you can't reach the toe, that's okay. Just reach as high up as you can. If that means the shin, if that means the knee, whatever it happens to be. Either way, 15 kettlebell swings, 20 cross-body V-ups. We're going to do that for 8 delightful minutes. Thanks, Coach Ben. As you know, one of our metrics for this cycle is muscular endurance for the squat, which means we've got to squat at some point. That is going to be our extra sauce today, the cherry on top of the sundae that has been today's workout. We are going to do some Tabata air squats today. So the Tabata interval originally designed for how to increase aerobic capacity, but we're not using it for that today. We're using it for muscular endurance. That means we're going to be doing 20 seconds of body weight squats or air squats, whatever you want to call them. We're going to rest 10 seconds and repeat that for 8 total intervals. The idea is keep moving on the 20 seconds, enjoy your 10-second rest, get as many squats as you can. Let's look at how a good squat should look. Body weight squats, it's, as you know by now, pretty basic stuff. We've got to push the hips back, drive those knees out, try and keep the torso as upright as possible. And of course of that, all of these things are going to be factors of your general mobility. So of course, trying to keep those positions as best we can. If you have issues with keeping yourself honest, you can do what Coach Ben is doing here, which is finding a medicine ball or a low surface of some kind to gently boop your bum across to make sure that you are not half repping it. What's a half rep look like, Coach Ben? Oh yeah. Just kind of not really getting all the way down there. And again, sloppy reps where it's just the chest coming down instead. Collapsing reps where we're just dropping down without any tension. So what we're looking for here is beautiful reps. And ideally, not taking a rest at the bottom either. Thanks, Coach Ben.
Oh, you're welcome.